Kia ora and welcome to another Aotearoa Rugby pod collaboration with For the Love of Rugby South Africa, where we're joined by Stephen Kitshoff, Rugby World Cup winning Springboks prop, to get into where the All Blacks might have shown them some weaknesses. What went wrong with South Africa and Argentina, and what does it mean? Plus some really solid insight into what the rest of the Boks squad is up to right now preparing for the All Blacks, as well as why their scrum is so damn dominant. What is it that they're doing that no one else is doing, and what do the All Blacks have to do to stay in touch with them at scrum time? So plenty to get into. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Well, I mean, first and foremost, let's start with the Boks, shall we? What did you make of how it went down against Argentina? It wasn't clinical, but we weren't necessarily expecting that.
100%. And yeah, thank you so much for having me, guys. It's just awesome to catch up and have a little conversation. But yeah, thinking about the Boks, it was a bit scrappy. I think there was a lot of like old familiar new faces with Eben, Sia, Luat, those guys coming back, having Sasha back in the mix. We expected it's going to be a little bit scrappy. These guys haven't played rugby for a couple of weeks now, and but just still to get the win at the end is impressive, because the Argentinians in Buenos Aires is a tough team. They play with a lot of passion. We could see even with the anthem, they did the full anthem, so just that 5 minutes of waiting plays a role emotionally on the game. So I think for the Springboks, the way that they managed that game and the way that they fought their way through for the 80 minutes, I think they did an exceptional job in those circumstances.
I thought the Argentinians, considering that first 5-10 minutes, and even in the first half, like they probably, if you do think that if Van der Merwe doesn't score that try, it's probably 10-3. They probably should have been up a little bit more. What did you see in that first half that wouldn't concern you, but something that you did see in the first half that maybe that the All Blacks, I know you're probably not going to go into the inside here, but that you maybe saw with the South Africans struggled in that first 40 minutes?
We used to having like this fast start from the South Africans. So throughout the entire Nations Championship, they got up, they were 10, 14 points up before the first 20 minutes of the game. And I think what the Argentinians did well, they almost strangled and sacrificed or took the momentum away from the Springboks. They didn't allow them to get into the scrum battles, into those line-up battles where they can play the territory game well and almost build pressure in the red zone. So I think what Argentina did well, they played in behind the box. They moved the ball away from the breakdown area. They moved the ball to the wider channels where they found a little bit of momentum, and they just kept the Springboks turning. And I think that's where they almost made the Springboks not have opportunities to score points.
I remember watching Scotland a few weeks ago, and I know it was against probably an under-strength South African team, but the offloads have been able to go through the middle to be able to keep their ball going forward. And I think if you do look in that first half, Ross, the fact that they were able to do that, and the lightning quick ball, and being able to, I guess, have the South Africans go backwards and not be set, even though they are, I wouldn't say they're reckless in terms of their line speed, but they want to put skill set pressure. But as you know, Stephen, it is really, really hard if you are getting over the advantage line. You know, it's very, very difficult for a centre or a winger, and even Fussy if he's coming into the line when they have that quick ball. So yeah, I do agree. The way the breakdown work was done from the Argentinians, I thought it was pretty impressive.
Springboks have a pass read defensive system, so they try and read on the passes. So when it's a wider breakdown, they would love to shut it down within the first 3 passes. And when teams start getting their offloads away, we're not sticking in the hits. It makes the defensive, the line speed, and that recklessness of getting off the line to put the skill set on pressure, that it makes that more difficult as a defensive system. So yeah, spot on in what you saw there, because it is, as soon as teams find a little dog legs, those little seams in between the defenders, it's quite difficult to get back, first of all, because you want to jump off the line, you want to get up, you want to get high, you want to get the guy stepping back to the big boys.
The other thing I kind of saw, Stephen, was that maybe the box kicking game, the pressure game, was slightly off. You know, it just wasn't as clinical as it usually is, and that seems like a pretty easy fix.
A big part of the Springboks attack is to try and force those aerial battles, because they either give you a scrum, turnover, opposition, unstructured play. So from that point of view, we saw a lot of kicks from Fussy, almost those running bombs where he comes back, he catches the ball, he comes running down the middle of the field, kicking up and unders. And the Argentinians did well to just secure the ball and almost put the pressure back onto the Springboks. We saw it from Sasha as well. He was also, he liked to run it back, kick the bombs. And it's a little bit out of the Springbok structure. If you look at the first 3 games, they normally kicked off 9, and it was a very structured kicking game where they had the chasers, they had Sia and on the wide channel putting pressure at the breakdown. It almost felt like the Boks went a little bit away from that and almost tried to kick those running bombs. It might be maybe just trying to figure out a solution for if you don't have the opportunity to kick from the base, and just maybe see if that was something that they can bring into the game. But yeah, it's a bit of a concern that they didn't get into those collisions more often.
And you've done very well there to be able to give us, I guess, what we think that the South Africans need to work on. But if we do probably have a look at in terms of the Stormers, a team that you had a lot of time with back in your day, you must have been impressed with, I guess, their line out more. And if you do look at probably the All Blacks, and probably their inability to be able to stop that rolling more, especially in the first half against the Stormers.
The Stormers definitely pride themselves in set piece. I think if you look at the first try, the Stormers started with a scrum on the 5-meter line where they milked the penalty, kicked it out on the halfway line, got a penalty from that maul, another opportunity, and they just kept building the pressure at what led to a yellow card and eventually into a try. That is basically what the Stormers DNA was for this game against the All Blacks, because they knew they can't go toe to toe in a running game, even though we all know the Stormers play very dynamic offloading game. But if you make mistakes against the All Blacks, they're probably going to catch you with 60 points. But yeah, I think it was very impressive the way that they went at it. And then another thing I picked up was the aerial contest of the Stormers, putting pressure on Beauden Barrett. Almost felt like Beauden was a little bit late to the contest, and that also gave opportunities to the Stormers to attack in the red zone and build the pressure on the All Blacks. I think watching that game, the Springboks will definitely have a look and see how they can attack aerially and go after the back 3 of the All Blacks.
We know that Rassie reigns supreme over there, but to what degree does he have input into the way these domestic teams are going to play against the All Blacks over the next little while? You know, will there be messages going from him into these camps to say, hey, can you try this against the All Blacks?
Probably not as much of changing the tactical side and the strategy. I think he'll probably just ask them to be a bit more brutal and maybe try and just dish out a little bit more harder hits at it comes to breakdown or scrummaging. But no, you won't dictate. I think you would like to see teams play different styles just to see where there's opportunity to unlock certain weaknesses or strengths from the All Blacks. So what the Stormers probably did, we'll probably see similarity from a team like the Sharks. They also like to kick the ball, get into the aerial contest, and they also have a strong set piece. So we'll probably see a similar style like that, but they might try and attack closer to the breakdown or be more of a threat that side because of their loose forwards, their big ball carriers. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the other franchise teams do.
One of the things I think we find interesting over the next few weeks is the way that you use a midweek team. You know, history suggests that midweek teams often struggle on tour. The Lions often come close to losing. The All Blacks, I think, against the key South African opposition over history, lose 1 in every 9 against, you know, those major domestic teams. When you spent time in Europe and you probably, you know, played in teams who were playing in the top 14 and then going to Europe and teams had to rotate in order to stay fresh, was it something that you noticed that it's kind of like a midweek process where it's not easy to maintain cohesion as players chop and change every 3 or 4 days?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, and to find a little bit of rhythm within your team, it does change. It does make it very difficult because there's also the travel factor, and it's not like everything is based in Cape Town or in Johannesburg. It's the 4 days in camp in a certain area, pack your bags, then we fly to Joburg, then we fly to Durban. So there's that element, which also creates a lot of like, it makes it a bit more irritating. It's a bit more stretchy compared to like finding a base, staying there for 5 weeks and doing that style of thing. And then as well, there's going to be a combination maybe being played with a certain front row, and the next week they throw in someone else, or they throw a different lock combination with that front row, and then all of a sudden the scrums or something doesn't click 100%, and I think that's where that almost that scratchiness from those midweek games come from.
It means that I suppose to some degree it's hard to really understand what all of this means. You know, from Dave Rennie's point of view, I suppose you can understand that maybe he is looking at form but then form is kind of created by the cohesion that's around you, right? So to actually push for a test spot, considering how well they developed during July, Brynner, it's kind of difficult.
Well, it is hard because you probably do look at on the weekend, if you do look at the All Blacks, like very good first 5 minutes, and I thought, to be honest, we're seeing like what we saw in June in terms of being able to play that high tempo, great skill set, offloads, and being able to score that first try. But the clunkiness that I found with it, like a lot of times that I look at the Stormers and the way that they defended, and it was a great preview, I think, to be able to. You can always train it, and you can always play teams that do bring line speed. But I think that South Africa and in general, they do like to bring a lot of line speed, and even you probably look in the instances when Josh Moy was at fullback, we just couldn't get that pass away. They did enough to be able to shut the ball off. There's one where Josh Moy, if he just passes, I think Billy Proctor and Taulina Brown were in the picture, they end up being able to score a try. But I think individuals played very, very well. Like you look at Leroy Carter, Peter Larkai, I thought Antolina Brown was outstanding, so the guys definitely did put their hands up. So I think the individual side of it, you can put your hands up, but I think the cohesion and the clunkiness that we probably saw in that test match against the Stormers, that I was surprised with, if I'm going to be brutally honest, Ross, because I know South Africa is different and Cape Town is probably at sea level. It is probably the easiest place to play. If there is an easy place to play in South Africa, there's not, but in terms of the high veld, it is at sea level. So I expected in the fact that it was in the June series, those guys would have trained a lot. They would have trained a lot of pitches and been able to get the synergy and not the cohesion, but the understanding of what it is to do on attack and defence. But it was just very, very clunky. So I thought individuals stood out in the game, but probably until that last 15 minutes where we scored 4 tries, very clunky, I thought, in a lot of areas, especially like what Stephen said in terms of the box kick and being able to win the aerial battle. The difference I found is that guys are actually catching the ball again in front, and we're getting knock-ons from that. And if we want to do that against South Africa, then we're going to invite them to have scrums, and they will have scrum penalties, and then we're going to be able to go into line-out mauls. Then they're going to get in the 22, and they just have big ball carrying locks and big carrying forwards that get over the advantage line. So one area I do agree with Stephen is they've been able to win that aerial battle and the scraps. We probably lost that battle against the Stormers on the weekend, on Wednesday.
And Stephen, the scrums, when we saw the Stormers scrum, I think they forced Tossie into 2 penalties relatively early on. It was strong. And one of the questions I suppose we have in New Zealand, having seen the Springbok scrum develop over the last 5 to 10 years to a real powerhouse. I mean, it was always a strength, but now it's a weapon as much as anything else that they do. What do you see as the difference? What has created this, probably across the board, seeing what the Stormers are doing, the strength for scrummaging in South African rugby in comparison to everybody else?
It's difficult to pinpoint one thing to say, listen, this is going to be the way that everyone scrums, because I feel like if you look at the Stormers, they've got a great scrummaging coach in Brock Harris. He's a very experienced player. He's got over 400 first-class games, and he's just incredible, understands the techniques and the mental side of the scrum, and he absolutely loves it. But then from a Springbok point of view, filtering down to the clubs and even into the development phases of boys coming through to the varsity cups, into the Currie Cups, and all the way up until the Springboks, there's a certain understanding of how they want the players to scrum. If it's body shape, if it's the speed of engagement, if it's the cohesion between the front row, always understanding that the guy in the middle is the main guy that we need to empower to make sure that he goes forward. Understanding that entire ecosystem of the scrum within South Africa is quite important, and I think each coach has a different way of teaching it. But from Don and the Springbok level, they want guys to be primed and ready to, if they get pulled into the Springbok team, they don't have to change anything from their scrumming techniques. They come in, they know that they've been doing it at their club for many months or even years, and going from that, just stepping into a Springbok scrum, then you can almost just slot in immediately and not be off the pace a little bit. So I think from that, as an entire ecosystem of the scrum, it's quite important that everyone understands what needs to be done.
Probably a hard question for me here to ask you, because I am a halfback, but Jipper would be a great person. But we've talked a lot around the Springbok scrum, and I probably have to say maybe a decade ago, or maybe 12 years ago, when we were kind of in the golden age of All Black rugby, our scrum was pretty dominant. We'd be pretty, I guess, understanding that, okay, in tight situations, we could go to our scrum and get a scrum penalty. It seems like you guys have turned that now, and that you guys are the world leading and being able to be in the scrums and being able to win penalties. World Cup, Willemse gives a free kick and you end up having a scrum, which was a great ploy, which has been changed now, funnily enough. But I just, more so just maybe a little bit deeper around what has been changed in South African rugby. I think more so at the top level. If you do look at the South Africans, you've been a Springbok, I guess you have a really good understanding of those players that are in that environment. Like, has there been a massive change? Is there a mindset change? Is there a technique? Is there more scrummaging drills that you guys are doing? Because it just seems like you guys are just way more formidable than anybody else in the world right now.
So since Rassie came in, we all remember the 57-0 loss against the All Blacks. It was quite hard. We lost to Ireland. We lost to Italy. So there was a real tough time in South African rugby. And then when Rassie came in, he didn't try and change the guys' techniques. All he did was come up with a game plan, or let the guys buy into a game plan where it's almost you're playing winning rugby. If it's defense orientated and kicking game, that's the way we're going to play. And then from there, we live off the scraps. And as we started building that mentality of listening, guys, we're just going to tackle the shit out of guys, and we're going to make sure that we got an unbelievable kicking game, and then build on the set piece each year. Like we had Matthew Proudfoot almost introduce the scrum dominance, and then Don took over. So from a mental point of view, that was the only thing that we focused on, was just playing this brand of rugby. Doesn't matter who it is against, and we just play to win, and it doesn't matter if there's a big scoreline. And from there, as Felix Jones came in, as Tony Brown came in, we started adding layers to the game. They brought a bit more of an attacking style. There's more interlinking play between the forwards and backs. You see more little trick plays of lineouts, and then they started building from that good foundation that they laid. Now you see the Springboks that's in their New Zealand golden era. They currently there. So for them, it was always the foundation was the most important, making sure that our defense and kicking game was the thing that could win us games. And then building the house on top of that is what Rassie did exceptionally well, because now when you play against the Springboks, they can play multiple different styles of rugby. They can play a very dominant orientated game where they go, listen, we're going to just scrum more big ball carriers, or they can play the game of like, let's expand a bit, get the ball to the wing. We like the little cross kicks and those type of things. So I think that's where the Springboks are now. They understand what it needs to be done, but it comes from a very strong foundation.
And I think that's one thing we've kind of touched on, and I guess we've been a little bit jealous, I reckon, in terms of the way that you guys have adapted and evolved, because you guys have won World Cups. If you probably do look, I think not in 2023, but you look at 2019, the suffocation game, right? Being able to go to the box, and it's been a big, I guess, kryptonite, I guess, of the All Blacks, being able to try and deal with it. And we're probably still trying to find solutions and be better in that space. Look at the Stormers. You guys had that ability to be able to have a suffocation game. You had a great set piece. You were very good in and around the 22 in execution of using your big men and not being able to waste energy. But now, when you guys had Tony Brown and Felix coming in, like you're right, you have added layers, and that's why I think right now we've always seen you guys as very dangerous. We think that World Cup, you guys are going to be way more dangerous because you've had Tony Brown, your skills. You can see now your big boys now have really good interplay of tip plays out the back. Like you said, Lebok or even Ngonzulu being able to find crossfield kicks, little deft touches from Jesse Creel or Delande. So I'm just pumping you up here, mate, because we're a little bit worried here in New Zealand, but we're just pumping you up. But yeah, it must be great, as I guess, as a South African supporter now, being able to see the evolution and I guess the multiple ways that you guys are able to win test matches.
90%. I think as a fan, it's amazing to watch, and you always just enjoy watching the guys go up, because there's not just the soft touches and the skillful stuff. There's also the physicality that I actually love the most of this game. So watching big boys like Jasper Wiese carrying down the middle, getting guys like Peter Steph on the wing, trying to dominate the opposition in front of him. So for me, it is, as a supporter, I just don't want to become too arrogant or take it for granted how good the Boks have become. Like, almost feel last night, like watching against the Argentinians, you're expecting this team to just dominate the world, and when things go a bit, not, I won't say pressure, but when things start going wrong, you almost start feeling like, geez, what's going on? Is there big issues within the Springbok team? Which is not. It's one game, tough conditions, tough rotation, long flights, but they'll come back on Tuesday, and we'll probably see a different team jog out that first New Zealand Test match for RGR, and see everything that we've expected from them all this time.
When you talk about there being a different team, I suppose one of the things that we see from over here is each week it's quite unpredictable as to which way Rassie's going to go. He's got a deep squad, he's got a lot of players he's got trust in, and he's got multiple ways of going about it. As South Africans, do you feel you've got a grip on what he's going to do this week? You know, do you have an understanding, okay, I think he's honing in on this player, or is it just random each week and you're like, okay, is that where he's going?
I think we like to think we understand what's going on. I think I think the way that he rotates and it's very, very unpredictable. But I think it's also the way that he creates longevity within the players, like not just from a career point of view, but also guys bleeding young guys in, almost keeping the Springboks quite strong for a longer period of time. So we'll probably see a bit more consistency throughout the squad, or we might not. To be honest, I'm not sure. We probably will see the best 15 play these 4 test matches, but he can also we saw it last year from Auckland to Wellington. He went almost what we thought would be the best starting 23. Completely threw it on his head and made, I think, 10 changes to Wellington, and it was a completely different result. So yeah, it's very, very uncertain of where he's going with this.
You know, a lot of this Springbok team hasn't played a lot of game time. You probably do think in the June series, it felt to us that it was more like you guys were giving guys opportunities to play test matches, knowing full well that probably the All Blacks series, you are probably, you'd like to think that you are going to stick with probably the majority of players that he would trust. But do you want to maybe give us a little bit of an insight for those guys? Because we probably talked around, would they be underdone not playing test matches? But you were saying to me that they go pretty hard in terms of getting conditioning and actually like game scenarios during the week, maybe twice a week, to try and get that kind of test match feel.
We saw it all over social media as well, as with the Lions training in Joburg, mingling with all the Lions players in between. But the Springboks understand that because there's so much rotation, not a lot of guys get enough game time to be ready for a big test match like the All Blacks at Ellis Park, especially. So within a week where they send a squad to Argentina and they've got a squad of 15, 16 players staying behind, they would run live drills, live scrummaging, tackling drills, game scenario drills for 40, 45 minutes, maybe twice a week, where they actually get that conditioning side built into the session without just running Broncos or playing whole-sided games all the time. They actually do the rugby work. So the guys are quite geared. And I had a quick conversation with Malcolm when I arrived in Joburg yesterday, and he said like this year, but this week has been probably the week from hell. Like having most of the guys in Argentina, the guys that stayed behind, basically just got flogged for 5 days in a row. So the guys are working hard, and they do a lot of live stuff to make sure that they game ready when the test matches start.
You say live scrummaging. Is that the key? Just to drop back to that scrummaging, is that one of the keys to the success there? Is that there's a lot of live scrummaging? The machines are out the window, and it's blokes on blokes. That's kind of the thing that you need, because why would you do it the other way if you need to simulate?
Scrums on a Wednesday was always tougher than most test matches, and Don normally gets 20-25 minutes on a Wednesday morning, and he would do about 15, 16 live scrums in that window. So the scrumming sessions at the Springboks are very intense. The guys go flat out at each other. We always like to think that we got maybe 2 of the best packs going at each other in the world, of like just going physically at the scrum, not playing wise, but physically scrumming, and those sessions get pretty brutal. So Don's never been a believer in a scrum machine. I think the only scrum machine work you do would be in the gym, but otherwise it's all live and like endurance and making sure that you get into strong positions. And the guys just, from the first scrum in one of those sessions, which might just be a fold in and hold, up until the one right at the end where it's like, let's see if we can last for 60 seconds type of thing. It's all live, and it's body on body stuff.
Did you just say 60 seconds?
Yeah, no, it gets pretty intense.
Oh, Jipper would absolutely love hearing this, chat. 60-second live scrums. Being able to hold that for 60 seconds.
What do your legs feel like? Are you lightheaded after you walk away from a 60-second scrum?
100%. And the next moment, Felix Jones screaming in your ear to get to the breakdown so we can start the main session. And you're like, I can't walk. Type of thing, yeah. So it's pretty intense. Pretty intense, those 45 minutes.
Brutal. On the other side of things, this young kid, Porthen, who's a big unit but seems to have skills, he comes on, he's putting in steps. We saw Rapeti do some footwork as well. Are you allowed in the club if you throw side steps?
With Felix and with Tony, they encourage the guys to use a little bit more footwork. It's just like we all know Felix Jones and his exceptional focus on detail and trying to beat the person in front of you. And he says by any means you can, like if it's footwork, if you can step, if you're just someone that likes to run straight or a late level change. So you'll see more of the props actually try and use footwork, because no one expects a big 125 kilo tight head prop to beat you on the outside with footwork. They expect you to come straight, and when you sit, that's when he beats you with a little bit of a shimmy there.
It's a lot of scrum chat.
It's a lot of scrum chat.
We've got the wrong person here. We've got a halfback here that's got no ideas when it comes to scrums. But we just want to go forward to maybe the Sharks, because we are playing them on Wednesday. And I think, well, I guess with how the Stormers did go and how competitive they were, it was a really good, a litmus test of what's to come, for these kind of weekly games and against these URC teams. The Sharks, what can we, as Kiwi fans, what can we see? And are we going to get similar around the set piece, or are they going to be a bit more expansive or a bit of a hybrid? I see Ma'anonu is going to be playing there at almost 50. Gives us a bit of hope to be able to play. So, what are we going to see from the Sharks coming up this week?
I think probably first of all it will be a late kickoff as well, so there might be a little bit of slippiness and dew around Durban. With the humidity, the field gets quite slippery, quite snotty. So I think there'll be probably a lot of focus on set piece, especially from the Sharks' point of view, and then probably similar to what the Stormers did. They would like to play one or two phases and then try and get the aerial contest going. Almost try and stay away from the All Blacks' ability to poach on loose ball, scoring from any opportunity. I think they would try and limit that as much as possible and almost try and force the All Blacks back into their own half and make them exit. And we'll probably see. It's been well known that the Sharks play that style of rugby. They back their set piece and they try and turn teams around. And when there's the opportunity to strike, they're deadly. But I think they'll try and play similar style against the All Blacks.
But we don't see a lot of the URC down here. Is there any players that we should be keeping an eye out on? There was obviously a lot of talk about the Stormers' first five, Ahmed, but what about for the Sharks?
Yeah, for the Sharks would probably be the outside backs. They're quite dangerous. I think from also a very, very young squad. It will be similar to what the Stormers had. They'll throw a lot of youngsters in there. A couple of the senior guys will be a guy like Vincent Koch, who probably play tight head, and then just start building it from there. But you'll probably see a lot of youngsters, maybe a little bit more less known guys to come through and play at this big test game.
If you're going to pick the All Blacks or the Sharks, who are you going to pick to win?
No, All Blacks to win.
Yeah, nice. Just there we go. It's a little win for us there. Not South Africans saying the All Blacks are going to win. Just getting on the tongue, the lips, just getting it to come out.
Yeah, you want them to get used to it.
Just get used to it.
This is part of the training.
This is part of it. Just trying to bend them. Not break them, but right now just bend them.
And by the time we get to test one,
that's it. Yeah. Ellis Park,
it's become a habit.
I might ask him that. So Stephen, who's going to win? Yeah, maybe. It might be it. But we'll take that. We'll take that. Hopefully the Blacks go against the Sharks, and a lot better performance as well.
But before we go, I suppose let's give you a chance maybe to plug to our fans. Full of Love the Rugby South Africa. Can you tell them where they can find you?
It's a sister show of Ben Youngs and Dan Coles, myself and Trevor. A little bit of rugby chat, a little banter. Find us on Instagram, YouTube, all your podcasting sites that you listen to. But yeah, for us, it's been a bit of a journey, and we just love talking rugby.
Two front rowers
on the
podcast,
Love it. Could have a halfback in there as well, eh?
Awesome, mate. Thanks, mate. All the best for next week or so.
Thank you very much. Cheers, guys. All the best.